We Need Each Other is a podcast about the importance of human interaction. It provides reminders that we are not intended to live in isolation. Human beings need each other. The things about another that pisses you off and the things that take you over the moon are all opportunities to see through another's eyes, recognize their intrinsic value, and then look more deeply within ourselves to find the love that's always there. It is Black History Month, and we need each other because we need to understand our history. Our history as Black people has been withheld from us for so long, but it's out there and available, and we get to talk to people who can help to explain our history. And today's guest is one of those people. Denise Minns-Harris is a lifelong grassroots activist, sister, teacher, wife, mother, grandmother, dancer, Buddhist, and professional fundraiser for a wide variety of national and local political, educational, progressive, nonprofit, and advocacy organizations. Denise was born in New York City. Her father, a Black man named Al Minns, married her Jewish mother, Audrey Sands, in 1949 when their marriage was illegal in most of the United States. He was a world-renowned jazz dancer. They had 6 children. There were instances, she recalls, her mother responding to racist attacks. As she was growing up, her father was touring the world and appearing on TV and in movies. Whenever he would return home from touring, he would hypnotize her with stories of the countries he performed in and how people in countries like Brazil and Nigeria lived. At 14, she became a youth member of the Black Panther Party. At 16 years old, a 10th grade high school student, she talked her way into being accepted at the State University of New York College of Old Westbury, where her revolutionary leanings became even more informed and polished. Her parents' example of courage taught her to never acquiesce to the status quo and be willing to fight for what you believe in, especially your dreams. This has been the touchstone of her life. I welcome you, Denise Minns-Harris. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you on this episode. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you I'm so happy to be here. I was so happy to get the invitation. Yay.
Yes. So I'm curious, can you tell us what you mean when you say you are a grassroots activist?
Well, in my experience, being a grassroots activist means that you're not waiting for someone else to tell you when it's time to move. Mm-hmm. Earlier, we were talking about the fact that I'm a Buddhist, and Buddhism, as I practice it, it's very focused on self-development, and through your self-development, that's one by one how the world will change. So it's not the type of movement that really gets involved in movements per se. Mm-hmm. But me being Black and of this country, you can't just, that wasn't enough for me. Mm-hmm. And so I remember an example is in 2000, there was the shooting up of the Jewish Community Center in Granada Hills. Mm. And out of that came this drive to have the Million Mom March in D.C. And people were organizing all across the country. It was the budding beginning of the revolution to really do something about guns. Mm-hmm. I myself had a personal experience of a gun being drawn on me in the process of a robbery. So, I went to the organization and I'm like, we need to be a part of this Million Mom March, because internally there was this movement called Victory Over Violence, which was a very nice catchphrase internally, but who knew about it? And I thought it was an amazing concept, this idea of conquering the violence in your own life as a means to conquer violence in the world. Mm-hmm. So I went through many channels within the organization. There was a lot of reluctance to step out. But I kept chanting about it. We chant a phrase, Nami Renge Kyo. I kept chanting about it and talking about it and really trying to keep my ego out of it, because that is the key to being a successful grassroots activist, that people hear your purpose and your passion without your judgment that they don't see it as you see it in them.
Yes, yes, yes.
So lo and behold, they finally said, okay, go ahead and do it. So I make this announcement. I research how to get a bus. If all of us who wanted to get on a bus, which was 50 of us, paid $5, we could afford it. We could afford to rent a bus. And we got all these cards made that we were going to approach people and get them to sign it, that they take a pledge for victory over violence in their own lives. And so here, these 50 women, all grown women, all mothers, we get on this bus, we go downtown to where the event is happening, and it was the most inspiring day. And lo and behold, the organizational photographer got wind of it, came, took pictures. The international president heard about it and sent a note of congratulations. And it was written up in the national magazine as a great accomplishment. And so grassroots activists means that to me. That you see a need, you communicate, you check your ego. Because if your ego gets in it, no one wants to listen.
Right.
So that's what I mean by grassroots activists, that you see an opportunity, you communicate, you organize, you take action. That's measurable. Thank you.
And that's what we need more of, isn't it?
It really is. It really, really is. You know, so I was very appreciative. But, you know, I mean, my dad, when I was a kid, my dad, there was, you know, my generation was the one being taught to go under the desks at school. Like
yes.
Like somehow that would protect us. Somehow that would protect us if a nuclear bomb dropped.
Right, I remember those days.
Yeah, and I remember my dad saying to me one day, and you know, the communist scare would be on the news, and I wasn't old enough to understand it, but I knew people were talking about dropping bombs, and that scared me.
Right.
And I remember crying to him one day when he was home, like, what's going to happen? They're going to drop a bomb. And he said, I didn't even understand what he was talking about, but he said, we will never have a fight with communists. He said, we will go to war over oil in the Mideast. This was in the 60s.
What year was this? In the 60s?
Like 60, wow. 61, 62. Yeah. I mean, I was an elementary school child. And he was calling it then. Then. But, you know, such is the benefit of having a father who travels the world, which I know we'll talk about more later.
Yes, right.
Yeah, which I know we'll talk about more later on, about him and his impact on jazz and me in particular.
Well, it's certain that you are a living example of Black history. You yourself are an example of Black history. And I'm just curious, when was the point where you first realized that thing called racism or discrimination? Or like, when did you realize that you were in a category that was called, back in those days, colored, maybe?
Colored,
Negro.
Colored,
Negro. Yeah.
I did all the transitions.
I know, me too. I say I was born colored, then I was a Negro, then I was Black, then I was African American, and now I call myself a native Black. So, yeah. When was the first time you realized that? Do you remember?
I remember knowing there was a difference when we were going through transitioning from colored to Negro and Negro to Black. You know, I mean, I went through observing my mother, dealing with racism. I grew up, my cousins would go on the freedom marches in the South and come home and visit us and tell us the stories, the frightening stories. But I didn't understand terms like racism. But I felt that there was a great wrong occurring. I felt there was great evil in the world. And because of the books that were in my dad's library, like, 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro and things like that, by looking at those books and seeing those pictures, I knew that people got lynched. I knew great evil was out in the world. It was as I came towards, I think part of I'm digressing now, but I'm going another, but I think part of the fact that I went to a segregated elementary school. So because I went to a segregated elementary school, and our classrooms were surrounded with pictures of people like Whitney Young and Harriet Tubman and all these great black heroes that we heard about all the time, because I was in a segregated school, I grew up with a sense of pride and mission. And my teachers were mostly black or Jewish. And those little Jewish teachers were just as committed as those black teachers that we get it. So it was a gradual recognition. And again, I can't talk about those periods without talking about my dad, because he played such a major role. I mean, my dad proudly was one of the first members of the American Communist Party. But I knew that it was because of the communist movement that we had labor unions and child labor laws and unemployment. And so I knew that the communists weren't necessarily all bad. Now, they got taken over.
Right.
But at the point that he was a party of it, it was about people and workers' rights and health rights, and actually much of what the Black Panther Party became. So it wasn't a moment of epiphany. There was a moment of epiphany when my life said, I have to do something about this.
Right.
I have to do something about this. And that's when I was 14 years old, and we got bused out to an all-white school in the fancy suburbs of Bayside, Queens of New York. And, it was like we were lucky in our neighborhood. We were lucky if our parents could throw a party for our Sweet 16. But in Bayside, Queens, those little white girls got cars for their Sweet 16. And so, and they had all the label shoes and label clothes. And I began to feel like something's really wrong. And there were no black counselors or black teachers, and teachers would say, they'd call on us in the classroom and say, when you answer to the best of your ability, didn't they teach you people anything? And then the class would laugh at us. And we were lucky if there was more than one of us in a class.
In a class, yeah.
So you know what I did? I organized the students and we shut that damn school down.
I love it. And you had that awareness because of your upbringing and because of what had occurred in your life prior to being in that environment. I wonder sometimes the person that's in that environment that did not have your background, your upbringing, what did that do to them? That's just such a, how fortunate you were to have the start that you did.
Absolutely. And I met some of those kids in college. I met black kids in college. I can think of two specifically who pretty much grew up in all white communities, all white friends, and had never had that immersion with their own people. And I remember the young man talking to me one day in the cafeteria, and he's like, I feel like a fish out of water. He said, I feel like I belong in neither world. I don't know where I fit anymore. And, what could I say? I said, hang out with me. We're closing this mother down too. I closed down my university. just go with the flow. You'll figure it out.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, just that in itself is a beautiful story because, I've been asked the question by young people, young Black people, was it better that we integrated? Was that better for us? And, it's almost like it had to happen, but we lost a lot when we weren't. I didn't grow up in a Black school. I grew up in, thank God, not an all-white school that had enough Black people that I had my people, but I was still in a white environment that wasn't looking to make sure that I was okay. It's why I went to an historically Black college and made sure my daughter went to an historically Black college because I wanted her to have people who cared about her and knew that she was okay.
Yes.
What were you going to say?
I made sure my sons went to. Well, in elementary school, for me, I thought everybody sang the Star Spangled Banner and then Lift Every Voice because we did both songs every morning.
Right now.
So when my sons were growing up, it was very natural to me to teach them that song.
Yes.
And when my oldest, his first HBCU, he went 1 year to Grambling and then he transferred over to Xavier graduated right before Katrina. But my joy was when they did this whole indoctrination ceremony when he went to Grambling. And part of it was to sing Lift Every Voice. And I was so proud that I had taught my son that. I'm sure I don't know, but I would assume they still sing it in the Black churches. Well, my kids grew up in the Buddhist community, so they wouldn't have learned that in the Buddhist community. But I taught them Lift Every Voice. I did. Mm-hmm. And who knew that years later he could proudly sing with his schoolmates. The National Black Anthem, which is such a great song.
Such a great song.
I don't know why everybody don't sing it, actually.
Everybody should be
everybody
singing
should sing
it. It's so funny. I found myself singing it the other day, just spontaneously. And I was thinking about the words of the song. We should be singing the song, Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, there's some, every now and then this mild movement comes along to, make it the new national anthem. We'll see. Maybe our grandchildren will do it. I don't know.
Yes, right.
But it's a great song.
I'm curious, Denise, what was it like for you growing up with your Black father and your white mother? You said your mother experienced the racism.
Well, it's kind of weird because, as Black people, we have to deal with our own stuff, particularly in those days. And, my father was a very chocolate-colored man. Mm-hmm. And, the fact that he married a white woman, it's interesting because he was a dancer. My Bible-beaten Baptist Black family wasn't that keen on him. But then he married a white woman, which was lightening the family up. Mm-hmm. So that opened some doors a little, some cracks. And forget it. I mean, when I was born, my hair was blonde, so they were like, woo woo. They were happy about that.
Right. Interesting.
Conversely, my mother's family, being Holocaust survivors, they wanted no parts of this and no parts of us. To this day, I have first cousins I've never met. They went exit stage left. And because my father is the only surviving child on that side of the family, in other words, I have no cousins. It's so fascinating. Be that as it may, not that I care. Yeah, right. Except as a political statement. I mean, I had lots of loving friends as I was growing up, so it didn't bother me. But I the first time I heard the word nigger was when my mother had taken my sisters and I shopping, and as I said, when we were young, blonde hair, very fair. I mean, I'm the darkest one of all of us, so the woman, a white woman, was on the checkout line with my younger sister, who, for all intents and purposes, looks white, and she was admiring how pretty Melody is. And my sister and I had been looking for purses for our Easter outfits. Mm-hmm. Remember when you had the little purse and gloves?
Oh, yes, indeed. I absolutely remember.
Yes.
Loved Easter for that reason.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, yeah, for only that reason. And your ankles with lace.
Right,
anyway, yes. But anyway, we ran to my mother with, with our purses that we had found. And, Mommy, look. And this woman, I can still see her face 60 years later. This woman screwed up her entire face, looked at my mother and said, "Nigger lover." Mm-hmm. And my mother, the expression on her face of pain, like I remember she threw her coat around me, like somehow that would protect me from the sound, because I was like, I was the only one saying, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" Everybody else was quiet, but I'm like, "What, Mommy? What happened? What happened?" And tears, and she just left us up there and got us out the store. Oh. And I'm like, my purse.
How old were you?
And then
roundabout
9.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And she wouldn't talk about it. And my dad was in like Spain or something. Mm-hmm. So there was no one to talk about it to. And my grandmother on my dad's side, Mama Ruby, she lived with us. So Mama Ruby told me everything.
Wait, you had a Mama Ruby? Wait, hold up. You had a Mama Ruby?
Mama Ruby.
Ruby. Okay, I had a Mama Ruby. I just had to check that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Mama Ruby lived with us. And when I asked her, I said, what was that? She was like, "We don't say that word in here." Okay, well, that left me totally in the blind. Yeah. Until I got older and realized what had happened. It was like they just wanted to protect us.
Yeah.
They didn't want us to have to even address it. Mm-hmm. So I get it, And then there was another time, I remember this was in terms of my dad's experience. He, at this point, it was in the late 60s, early 70s, mid 60s to early 70s, put it that way. And all the big clubs had closed. The big bands were no longer playing all over the city where he would perform. Mm-hmm. Classical, traditional jazz dance, as created during the swing era, to jazz music, which is why it was called jazz dance. Mm-hmm. They just weren't getting the bookings. And but my dad, and so money was really tight. And my dad had gotten all excited because a Broadway choreographer had called him and wanted to meet with him about choreographing a Broadway show. Don't ask me the name. He never told me. Mm-hmm. But so we were all excited, and he got all dressed and went for his interview in the city, and he came home crestfallen because the guy wanted him to choreograph, but he wanted him to do it ghost, this white guy, and he was going to put his name on my phone.
Wow.
And so so I asked my dad, I'm like, "Well, what did you say?"
Yeah, right.
Because I'm thinking, like, we need the money. And he said, I told him to kiss my ass, and walked out. I understood. I said, "Okay, Daddy. Okay, we'll be okay." So let's
talk about you. I want to hear about your dad. Let's talk about your dad. Let's talk about your dad. Almin. We said at the same time.
Right. He was born in Newport News, Virginia, and his father was David Minns, and he came up, as happened during the Great Migration, he came up before my grandmother to settle up and get them established, except he didn't settle for them. So my grandmother got tired of waiting. So she packed up my dad, came to New York, saw him living with some chick. He invited them to come in too. She told him deuces. She left. got her own place. She would do prostitutes' hair in the kitchen for 25 cents a head. And when she could get some work as a domestic worker, she did. And my dad, at about 7 or 8 years old, started dancing on the corner. So we're now talking about 1928. He was born in 1920. So he's dancing on the corners of Harlem with his friends. And they would work the corners and collect money. And after they got all of that, they'd go to another corner and dance and collect. And at that time, it was just like the Charleston and that kind of dancing. And it was his way of helping to support his mother. He completed about a 7th grade education. You'll hear him tell people he graduated high school. That's not true. There's a lot of interviews with him on YouTube, and I could always tell when he liked somebody, because if he liked the person interviewing, he told them the truth. If he didn't like him, he'd say any old stuff. If he felt judgment in him, he'd say, "Oh yes, I saw stuff." So it's okay because I get a kick out of it. And then at 18 years old, he won the Harvest Moon Ball, which was the biggest dance competition in the world, bar none, for every genre of partner dancing. And so he won at 18 years old. It was his first attempt at it. Wow. He won that in the Lindy Hop.
Oh, in the Lindy Hop, okay.
Yes. And so, but he never called himself a Lindy Hop dancer. I have a call sheet of one of the shows he did, and there was like 16 different dance genres that he did: the Lindy Hop, tap, snake hips, Big Apple, just a ton of Spank the Baby, just a lot of that was a cute dance, and so that's what he did. He danced, and he at 21 years old. Actually, he was 19. At 19 years old, the Savoy Ballroom was the #1 Lindy Hop club in New York City, and there you would be anointed, so to speak. And so the anointed one at that time was a man by the name of Leon James. Now, what that meant was when you came into the Savoy, and you have to understand the Savoy had like this amazing floor that bounced, danced, and all the big bands would come. Count Basie, Duke Ellington. My dad likes to tell the story that when the bands came, it was actually the dancers auditioning them. If the dancers didn't like you, you couldn't.
Yeah, I'll bet. That's right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So my dad came into the Savoy knowing that there was a circle over there that he was not supposed to dance in, that only Leon could dance in that circle. But now you see where I get it from. He took his little ass over there and danced in that circle. And like the people were like all outraged, and they wanted to do something, but Leon saw something in him. And he made them leave him alone. And when he finished dancing, they had a small exchange. And basically, my dad doing some damage control. I hope to be as good as you one day, Mr. James.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. You just keep working at it. I see something in you. Well, he became a part of the dance company that came out of the Savoy called Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. And they have the most famous Lindy Hop dance number in the world, bar none. It's a scene from the movie Hell's a Poppin'. HELLZAPOPPIN apostrophe. And it's on YouTube, and I have seen many folks try to duplicate that routine. They ain't ready.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've watched it.
Yeah. So my dad is the guy in the short white tuxedo. I think he's the third or fourth now. And And it's very interesting because he was 21. He told me that they were dancing on concrete. All of that. And they did it for the whole day, over and over on concrete.
Wow.
Which for a dancer is just, and they did it full out, balls to the wind.
Yeah, sure.
Every single time. It's an amazing routine. And it kind of, like, there's some things, in my opinion, you don't touch. Like, I think people should really look to their laurels before they try to sing anything by Aretha Franklin. Like, don't even step out there singing Aretha unless you really got it like that.
Right.
A lot of people sing Aretha, they don't have it like that. I feel the same way about Hells a Poppin'. They are adequate Lindy Hop dancers, but they ain't got it like that.
Yeah.
So that began my father, traveling all over the world. As a matter of fact, that's how he met my mom. My mom, with her little Jewish family, goes sneaking out of the suburbs to Harlem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for them, it was love at first sight. And, and they were willing to, they didn't care. The heart wants what the heart wants. And
it was against the law for them to marry.
It was against the law. And, it took me into my adulthood to let go of my deep resentment of the pain her family caused her.
Yes.
I overheard her once, just crying on the phone, begging her mother to come see her and come meet her beautiful children. And I did. I mean, they came once or twice. But my mom was, I like to say my mom was this little tiny Jewish lady with a spine made out of steel. But like me, like many women, your soft spot, no matter how hard you are, how tough you are, how strong you are, your soft spot is your family. Mm-hmm. That's where you live. That's where you experience your pain and your joy.
Yes.
And it hurt her, but she's a badass if you mess with her kids.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my dad had this amazing career, traveling all over the world, which made me kind of different from my friends, because I grew up with a world view and the sense of my place in it. I grew up with my father telling me, don't ever let anyone tell you you're a minority. There are more of us in the world than anybody else. And then he'd laugh. You know what I mean? So I did have this different kind of natural awareness. It wasn't even something I felt the need to run around talking about like I know something you don't know. Right. It was a natural awareness of my place in the world, and a very natural rejection of this foolishness of segregation and police brutality. And I remember I was 14. I was hanging out at the Panther Party headquarters, and we were getting ready. Columbia University owned a lot of slums in Harlem, and a kid had fallen down an elevator shaft and died because Columbia had refused to do the repairs. So us young people of the Panther Party were organizing a demonstration, and I, of course, was the spokesperson, running my mouth to the press every day, telling them what's coming up. And I knew that the day we were going to do the action, I was probably going to be arrested. My dad thought I was going to school every day. I was not. I was doing political action, and but it was time to let him know in case I got arrested.
Yeah. And
my father was very strict about our education and how important it was, and and don't bring home no weird report cards, And so I go to him with much trepidation, because I'd been cutting out all the clippings of the different meetings I'd had that the press had written up, and they would always just say spokesperson for the Black Panther Party, the youth division. And I said, Papa, look at this. And so he glanced through it a little bit, and he's like, what's this? I said, that spokesperson's me. And I'm going to be there tomorrow. But I'm kind of saying it defiantly, like, you're not going to stop me, right?
Right.
But he knew me. And I'm like, you know, and I'll probably get arrested. And he looked at me and he said, and inside I'm trembling, and he looked at me and he said, I only wish I would have had the opportunity to do this when I was your age.
And what age were you?
14.
14?
And he said...
14?
Yeah. And he said, if I have to mortgage this house, you will only be in jail as long as it takes me to get down there with the money. So now I had my daddy behind me.
Okay, right? Yeah, okay.
I was...
I'm on my way.
Good news is... Right. Good news is, you know, we didn't get arrested. Although there were other times as I got older that, you know, they took us away and then let us go, just annoying everybody. But yeah, that was my dad's support of what I was doing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, tell me your favorite place that he told you about that he visited around the world. What did you have because I know he told you stories of his travel. Brazil.
Brazil, because he and Norma Miller, who was one of the people he danced with Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, they went to Brazil before the start of World War II as a dance company to perform. And he came back talking about the non-racialism of it. How all the people was so racially mixed. And he talked about the food, and he talked about the dress, and he talked about the warmth. And then and he said, and I was there for, you know, so long. And when I was talking to Norma, actually 2 months before she died, she told me that, and he would always talk about Brazil. It would be one of his, you know, I was thinking, and then he would tell me about a restaurant, or he would tell me about a food. And Norma said that what happened was they went to Brazil as a dance company, and it was right before World War II broke out. And then World War II broke out, which meant because they'd come over in a boat, the Japanese had come in with their ships and no boat could leave. They had embargoed Brazil. So then you got these black dancers from America trying to figure out how to get home because they didn't have any more money.
Right.
And so they started dancing at a club just to keep the money coming in. And Norma said that they would wait for, there was a gentleman named Frankie Manning who played a large role in keeping it alive in recent, you know, in the 20th century, keeping the dance alive. But Frankie was the chaperone of the dance company as well as a dancer. In Hell's a Poppin', he's the first one out. And it was his job to chaperone. So they would wait for Frankie to fall asleep. Then they'd climb out the window and party all over Rio de Janeiro. And then get home just before he woke up, get enough sleep to go do the show, come back, wait for him to fall asleep. So he really loved Brazil because they were there for like 2 months before they could get out.
Wow.
So he loved Nigeria. When he came home from Nigeria, I waited for him to leave. And when he came back, my hair used to be very long. I had this big Angela Davis type afro, which is huge. And I'm 3 inches tall. And he comes home from Africa, and I'm defiantly waiting for him to say something, you know. And he looks at me and he said, if you were in Nigeria, they would consider your hair is not done.
Yeah.
What do you mean? He said, they do amazing braids. And braids are for little girls. And I saw pictures with them having blonde wigs on. He's like, I'm not talking about that Nigeria. I'm talking about the real Nigeria. And he told me about, you know, the ornate, which now we finally caught up. Yeah. Right? But when he looked at the afro, he was like, that's not done. He just took all the air out of my heat.
Yeah, right. I got this big, beautiful afro. Right.
Right. Waiting to be defiant, and his comment was, "Yeah, you're not finished. Get it done."
Right.
If you want to go there. So then, but him being the kind of dad he was, he went and got me a book, and I saw, how they would, do rap with the string and do the ornate beating, and I'm like, yeah, well, nobody around here knows how to do that, Dad. So I'm just, I'm sticking with this right now.
I'm good. Yeah.
He's like, whatever. Yes.
And then
the advantage of a father who's well traveled. And
what a wonderful father! What a wonderful father! What a wonderful father you have!
Yeah,
I'm sure that you went through some troubling times. I'm sure that I'm projecting that probably because of his absence, it was hard to have your father traveling a lot. But man, what he put in you, as they say, what he put in you. Yes.
And what's so amazing is I was so busy being rebellious and my own person that I didn't realize I was his exact mirror reflection. And it's only when I left New York and came to LA, and then we're on the phone one day arguing, and then I bust out laughing. I said, "This is the way it's always been. I really am just like you." And then he busts out laughing. And then, because he didn't miss what he put in me. But it's only in our adulthood. Yeah, it's only in our adulthood as it unfolds that you're like, whoa, I got a lot out of this relationship. It was interesting. Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah.
I'm curious, you were engaged with the Black Panther Party, and, the Black Panther Party has some reputation through the eyes of white America in this country, but you were experienced with it. Tell us from your perspective what you know.
Well, there were a couple of things that I was primarily connected to, and it was a lot of it because of my youth. So one of the committees, one of the groups that I worked with was the groups that helped heroin junkies kick dope. So we would snatch them off the streets and detox them, and they'd be throwing up and pissing and shitting on themselves. And it was our job to remain compassionate, remain caring, and I think it psychologically bore some influence that it was women and young women like myself doing that. The other piece of it that we did was the free breakfast program, where we would feed kids because, it got institutionalized, but no one was doing that before the Panther Party.
Right.
Free health clinics in the neighborhood, free health clinics, it got institutionalized, but no one was doing that before us. Bring your kids. We'll make sure they eat before they go to school. They can come here after school and get tutored. I remember this guy who shall remain nameless. He was one of the biggest coke dealers in my block, and he became a Panther. And he was major in recruiting dealers and users. And he would say to me, "Go to college, study economics.
Yes.
The key is economics,
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. Okay. And we did the free breakfast. We did the free health care. We did the free legal services when landlords were messing with you. And, we were making a difference. And I remember it was Joanne Little, I believe was her name. I haven't thought of her in a long time. Previous to that, they were just arresting the brothers and beating them and killing them. But then they arrested Joanne and beat her senseless, horribly. And
what was their reasoning? Why her?
I don't
What
remember.
did they say?
I don't remember.
know. Okay. I'm just curious. Mm-hmm.
I should have looked that up because she's been with me lately. I need to go look. And there's a part of me that didn't want to look. She's been with me lately. And it was probably triggered by this movie.
Judas the Black Messiah.
Judas the Black Messiah.
Yes.
I couldn't finish watching it. It was too close to home. I couldn't.
Well, and I wasn't a part of the Black Panther Party. I had a hard time watching it. My
husband finished watching it. He said it was uncomfortable. But the New York Panther Party was started by a New York cop. A New York undercover cop is who started the New York branch of the Black Panther Party. And then you had all this division between, Huey Newton in California and Eldridge Cleaver in New York. There was a lot of stuff. But why I left the party was because I was hiding guns. And after they beat her, it became very clear to me that I might die.
Yes.
And that's why as a 10th grader, I talked my way into this experimental college out on Long Island. And I said, when they said, some people might say you're too young. I went through all the levels. There was a lot of controversy about letting this, at this point I'm 16, letting this 16-year-old 10th grader in. Even though I'd handwritten this 25-page paper about why I need this education and that there's not another damn thing the public school system of New York can give me. Let's skip this and get to what's real.
What's real.
And this was a very elite kind of college. They only accepted 20 students a year. It was small. The year I attended was only 65 students. The first graduating class that I saw was 6. It was its 3rd year. And I will never forget it. I went through all these. The average age of the student was 29. I was 16. So they'd all done something. One of my best friends had been Dr. King's, one of his deputy chiefs, Christine Day. And so finally I get called in to meet the president of the college, and he says, there's a lot of controversy about whether or not you should be allowed in here at your age with your life experience. And I said, I don't care what they think. What do you think?
Yeah.
And he laughed. And he said, you're in. You can handle anything we send you. And that's how I got into State University of New York, College of Law, Westbury. My law instructor, Clayton Jones, was the head lawyer for Dr. King's organization. Or my political science instructor was Tran Dan Din, who I believe was the ambassador from the side of Vietnam we were fighting against. I mean, they had these geniuses. And that's why in my bio I said where my understanding of revolution got popped. Because I was exposed, and I was surrounded by black Vietnam vets who had a whole different story than you typically hear. How they were the first ones when they had to go into a village. They were the first ones. They put all the brothers together and send them in, and the Viet Cong would say to them, "Why are you fighting? What are you doing here?"
Good question.
And I saw the Vietnam War just wipe out a whole generation of young black men. I saw it with my own eyes. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So, what is your sense, for lack of a better word, your feeling, your intuitive guidance about where we are right now at this place in history, as far as from the black perspective? Where are we? What's being asked of us?
To lead.
To lead, yes. Say that one more time. To lead, yes. To lead. Go ahead. Absolutely.
We've wasted maybe it wasn't a waste. We spent time. We spent generations asking the larger community of this country to join us, to get it, to figure it out.
Yes.
And there were a trickling of those who did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Black women, in particular, we used to think being less would make others more. And now we have finally decided, I'm not going to be less. This is me. This is my power.
Yes.
This is what I can do.
Yes.
And this is what I will do. And we are leading. And I look at that sister from the Virgin Islands who did the impeachment hearings. She was just masterful. And Stacey Adams and Kamala. And the example now is to just lead. And anyone who's not comfortable with it, sit down. Because we're going forward. And what's beautiful is the young people. The young people, for them, it's as natural as breathing in and breathing out. And I don't care what their race, gender, or sexual preference is. It's like, oh, Black women are leading? Yeah, I know how to do that with them. I know how to do that with them. They're not intimidated. They're not asking us to be less than. And we're not being less than. And I believe that Black women aren't making excuses for our power anymore. We're not swallowing it down or translating our intent. Figure it out. Figure it out. Go ask your friends. Don't ask me. Because this is the way I'm going. And it's okay. You know, I marched my little feet off in 2020. I marched. I gave speeches at rallies. I gave more money than I've ever given before to candidates all over the place. All over this country. And it was worth it. And it was worth it. But what I also realized is that we have a special gift. And we shouldn't be ashamed of it. And we should use it. And it is our tradition. It's when we get our minds all messed up with the Judeo-Christian definition of what is a man and what is a woman. That's when we start being less than what we are. But if we look into our historical behavior and role, this is what we're supposed to do. That's why people got all excited when they saw all those women warriors in Black Panther, Wakanda.
Yes.
Because it felt natural.
Yes.
It's like, yes, that's what we do.
Right.
We have no problem. Now, come on now, let's go forward. So I would be on these marches this year, and I would look to the left of me and I'd look to the right of me. I never saw so many white people marching with me. Young people saying Black Lives Matter. And I had my mask on so they couldn't see the tears coming out my eyes, but I felt like, look, Dr. King, look what we're doing now. Look. And we didn't have to shame them to it. They came here on their own volition. It's like, stop it. And I honestly believe that it is our arts that have brought the respect and connection all over the world. You know, I was with Debbie Allen for 15 years, helping her build that academy into the world-renowned position it now has. We're still friends. And she would go here and go there, and she'd come back and meet with us and say, everywhere I go, they want hip-hop. They're not looking for nothing but hip-hop. And it made me think of my dad, you know, because the Lindy Hop of his era was the hip-hop of this era. And isn't it amazing that, you know, my son is a hip-hop master who's choreographed and won international awards for his dancing, you know. And so it's like it all comes full circle because it was the Lindy Hop that brought white people to the Black clubs. And it is our music and our art, I believe, that made these young white kids listen and learn and aspire to get it.
Yes.
And I'm not interested in teaching white people how to not be white I mean, how to not be, racist. I don't have the energy for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in me to forgive you for it. I don't wanna.
Mm-hmm.
Let somebody else do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just know it. I mean, at this stage of my life, I think about the times that as an adult, I didn't recognize what was really happening was racism. I thought it was something else.
Yes. I get it. Mm-hmm.
But in retrospect, I realized, and I don't care what community, I don't care if it was the religious community, the corporate world, the nonprofit world, I have experienced racism in every arena I've been a part of. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, do they get it?
Yeah.
And if they don't get it, that's okay, because I work for myself.
Right.
And I'm proud to say, not only do I work for myself, all my sons work for themselves. I got 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They watch their parents' backs. We ain't never worked for nobody but ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was working with Debbie, I was working for myself.
Yes. That's what it's all about.
She wrote checks to my consulting firm. I wasn't an employee.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do employee well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those who do, God bless you, because we all got to play our role to advance. But
we all have a role to play. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all have a role to play.
And none are better than others. Just whatever you're going to do, own it.
Do it well.
Do it well. Yeah.
That's right.
Because
yes.
I'll walk through this corporate setting and, some people will tell me about, their unhappiness with where they're working. And I said, well, you know what? From a spiritual cause and effect, integrity thing, as long as you're taking that check, you have an obligation to do your job.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to talk about you. And then what they say about you is still true. They're going to blame us all the same way.
That's right.
Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up with the next one coming.
Don't mess it up. Right. That's right.
Don't mess it up with that. Mm-hmm. So I think what's happening now is I'm so appreciative that I believe there is a consciousness that vigilance cannot relax.
Mm.
In the past, it was, we got our president, we can go to the beach. Now people are understanding you can't. Social media has done a tremendous amount of harm, but it's also done a tremendous amount of good. Mm-hmm. Because it's keeping people aware that the vigilance can't end. I mean, Georgia is making even more suppressive laws as we speak.
That's
because
right.
all the crap they pulled to try to sabotage this election didn't work.
Right.
So now they're trying to ramp it up even worse. We can't relax. We have to turn Texas. We have to turn Florida. We cannot relax. And what I love is that people now understand your fight is a national fight. We finally done figured out what the white supremacists have been knowing since we got here off the boat. This is not a local fight. This is a national fight. And you have to have a national mindset.
That's
and if I play it my dad's way, you have to have an international mindset.
Yes.
I'm so fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate because of the Lindy community. I have friends all over the world now. And they hit the streets about George Floyd just like we did. They were outraged just like we were.
Absolutely. All over the world. Over the world.
And
so we do have to have a global international mindset.
You must, or you or you get lost.
Yes.
Or you get lost, and as Americans, they're watching us. Our people internationally are watching us and hoping, because they believe what we achieve, they can achieve.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Denise, this has been an amazing conversation. This is just, we could go on and on and on because there's just such a wealth. This is beautiful. And the bottom line of what you just said, all of it is we need each other. We need each other. We have to do this together. We, Black people, we need each other. Yes. And it is our time to do it differently and to do it
And women. And women.
Be
your power.
Yeah.
Be your power. Don't be afraid. Because if you have a real man, your power is going to turn him on, not off.
Mm-hmm. Say that again.
43 years.
Right.
Yeah, if you got a real man, your power is sexy.
Yes.
Your power is sexy, girl.
That's right.
Don't smother.
And know it.
If you sooner or later, you're going to choke him out because he didn't know what was coming. So don't change the rules midstream.
Right.
All of a sudden show your power and get mad.
Right.
Be who you are from the gate.
Mm-hmm. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative of you. And I have to tell you, you go hug that grandson of yours, girl. He just makes my heart sing. He makes my heart sing every time I see a picture of him. He's amazing. He really is.
I tell you, sometimes I just start looking at my photos and laughing.
Yeah.
He's just a heartbeat. Yeah, I'm going to see him again in May. Yeah, I got my first COVID shot, and I get my next one, and I'm getting on that plane to see my little grandbaby. He's in Texas.
And where is he? Where are they? Texas, you said?
Dallas. Yeah,
thank you, Denise.
They're having fun. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you so much for doing this and for being a part and for sharing some history during this Black History Month that really is Black History Life every day.
Yes.
Every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You take good care. You look fabulous, darling.
And so do you.
Okay, take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.